The ultimatum. The stars above Earth were no longer quiet. Thousands of alien warships surrounded the planet, their metallic bodies glowing under the sun's light. Each one of those ships carried enough firepower to erase cities in seconds. For the first time in history, humanity was not fighting itself. It was facing something far greater, an enemy from the stars. Inside the orbiting defense station, leaders of Earth sat in silence. Screens flickered with the image of the alien commander, a towering creature with pale gray skin and burning yellow eyes. His voice echoed across the communication channel, deep and sharp like metal grinding against stone. "Humans," he said slowly, as if tasting the word. "You have one chance. Surrender your world, lay down your weapons, accept the rule of the Council. Refuse and we will burn your planet until nothing but ash remains." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Some leaders lowered their heads. Others whispered fears to one another. Earth had known war, but never like this. Against such power, what hope could remain? Far away, orbiting just beyond the main fleet, one human warship floated. It was not large, not new. The ship was old, patched from battles of the past, its armor dark and scarred. Compared to the shining alien armada, it looked like a relic, small, weak, and fragile. But inside, its crew moved with calm focus, their eyes steady, their voices firm. Captain Elias stood at the front of the bridge. His uniform was worn, his hair touched with gray, but his presence filled the room with quiet strength. He had seen many battles. He knew fear, but he also knew humanity's greatest secret: survival. The crew waited for his order. Around them, alarms blinked red, and sensors screamed with warnings about the overwhelming alien forces. Yet the captain did not flinch. He simply stared at the giant screen where the alien fleet hovered like a wall of death. "They expect us to kneel," Elias said softly. His voice was calm, almost quiet, but it carried weight. Every officer turned to listen. "They believe fear will break us. That is their mistake." A young officer shifted nervously. "Captain, their numbers and their firepower. We can't stand against that." Elias glanced at him, and for a moment, his eyes held the fire of every generation that had lived and fought before. "Do you know what makes us different from them?" he asked. "It is not ships. It is not weapons. It is the fire inside us. They think fear ends us, but fear only makes us stronger." On the screen, the alien commander appeared again, sending his second message. His words were filled with arrogance. "You are a small world. Your wars, your weapons, your history, it is nothing to us. We have destroyed empires older than your species. This is mercy. Take it or die." The crew exchanged tense looks. A heavy silence filled the bridge. For many, this felt like the end of everything. But Captain Elias's face remained hard as steel. He leaned forward, resting both hands on the command table. The lights reflected off the scars of his uniform. "Listen well," he said. "We have faced annihilation before. We have seen our cities burn. We have buried our dead, rebuilt from ruins, and returned stronger each time. They think this is the first time humanity stands on the edge of extinction. They are wrong." The officers straightened in their chairs. The fear in their eyes slowly shifted into something else, something sharper: determination. Outside, the alien fleet tightened its formation. Giant cannons began to glow with charging energy. They were preparing to make their threat real. Earth had only minutes left before the skies would rain fire. The youngest officer whispered, "Are we really going to fight them? One ship against thousands?" Elias turned to him, his face half in shadow, half in light. "One ship," he repeated. "Yes, but one ship with the will of humanity inside it. They see weakness. We will show them what they cannot imagine." For a moment, the bridge was silent again. The hum of the ship's old engines filled the room. Then slowly, the captain reached forward and pressed a single button on the command panel. The screen flickered, sending Earth's reply to the alien commander. The alien's face appeared again, cold and expectant. You have decided? He asked, his voice dripping with superiority. Captain Elias stared into those burning yellow eyes and spoke clearly, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. We do not surrender. The alien's expression froze. Around him, officers of the alien fleet exchanged confused looks. For them, surrender was the only logical path. To resist was madness. But Elias was not finished. He leaned closer, his voice turning harder, sharper, like the strike of thunder. You came here expecting us to kneel. You think we fear death, but you do not understand. Humanity was born in fire, and when you bring war to our world, you will not see surrender. You will see annihilation. The alien commander's face twisted with rage. His fleet began to move, engines flaring like suns, weapons glowing hotter. On the human ship, the crew tightened their grips on their controls. Their hearts pounded, but none looked away. The first battle was about to begin, and as the alien fleet prepared to unleash destruction, Captain Elias whispered almost to himself, "They think we are afraid, but they have no idea what's coming." Humanity's dark history. The alien fleet waited like a wall of steel in the sky, their weapons glowing brighter with each passing moment. From their perspective, victory was certain. One world, one fragile species, one ancient ship daring to defy them. In their long history of conquest, no enemy had refused the council and survived. But humanity was not like the others. Inside the human ship, Captain Elias stood tall on the bridge. The crew waited for his command, yet before the next step, he wanted them to remember who they were fighting for. Not just themselves, not just Earth, but for every soul that had ever walked through fire and lived. He turned from the alien screen and looked at his people. "Do not forget where we come from," Elias said firmly. "They think we are weak because our planet is small. They think we are fragile because our wars left scars. But it is those scars that made us strong." His words carried the crew into silence, and then his voice painted history in front of them. Long before these aliens arrived, humanity faced its own end many times. We burned our own cities in firestorms of war. We unleashed weapons that scarred the earth. Kingdoms fell, nations broke, billions died. And yet, he paused, his eyes sharp as steel. We did not vanish. From every ruin, we rose again. The young officer at communications frowned. "But Captain, they see those wars as weakness. They call us primitive." Elias gave a small smile, bitter but proud. "That is because they never lived through it. They only see destruction. They do not see what came after. They do not see the people who dug through the ashes, who buried the dead and then built cities again with bare hands. They do not understand what it means to rebuild your world after you've lost everything." The bridge grew quiet as the weight of his words sank in. Even the youngest members of the crew, who had only heard stories of Earth's darkest times, felt a deep pride rising in their chests. Meanwhile, the alien commander sat in his throne aboard the massive flagship. He reviewed humanity's history, files with amusement. Wars, genocides, famine, nuclear fire, such chaos. To him, it was evidence of barbarism. A species so self-destructive could never hope to face the council. He sneered and spoke to his officers. "Pathetic creatures. They kill each other more than their enemies. They have no unity, no discipline. Their wars are proof that they are unworthy to live among the stars." But one advisor hesitated, staring at the data. "Commander," he said carefully, "and yet they survived. Even after such devastation, their population grew. Their technology advanced. They even reached the stars despite their chaos." The commander silenced him with a glare. "Survival by accident. Nothing more. They are weak animals dressing themselves as warriors." Back on the human ship, Elias knew what the aliens were thinking. He almost pitied them for it. "They study our history and laugh," he said to his crew. "But that is their blind spot. They think destruction ends us. What they do not see is that every time destruction came, we learned to endure it. We Learn to rise stronger. He raised his hand, pointing toward Earth, glowing beneath them like a fragile jewel. That planet below us is not weak. It is a world that has died 1,000 times, and yet it still lives. Every river, every city, every family is proof that humanity cannot be erased. The crew felt their hearts ignite. The fear that once gripped them began to turn into steel. The alien commander sent another broadcast. His voice dripped with arrogance. You cling to hope as if it will save you. You have one ship. We have 10,000. Your history is nothing but ashes. You are a broken race playing at defiance. Captain Elias's reply was short, but his voice was iron. Yes, we are broken. But broken things are hard to kill. For a moment, the alien commander faltered. The calm certainty in the human's voice unsettled him. No other species had spoken to him this way. Most begged, others screamed. But this human did not sound afraid. He sounded like a man who had already lived through the end and survived it. The alien leaned forward. Then you choose death. Elias looked back at his crew, his expression steady. No, he said softly. We choose resistance, and they will learn what resistance truly means. Deep inside the old warship, hidden systems hummed to life. Compartments sealed. Power conduits glowed. Ancient satellites buried in Earth's orbit stirred awake, their sensors flickering for the first time in decades. The aliens thought humanity would surrender. They thought Earth was defenseless. But the captain knew the truth. Humanity had never forgotten the taste of annihilation. And because of that, it had prepared for this moment long before the aliens even arrived. The youngest officer looked up from his console, eyes wide. Captain, the systems are responding. The old network is alive again. Elias gave a thin smile, his voice low but filled with fire. Good. Let them believe we are desperate. Let them think they have already won. When they make their move, the trap will close. On the alien flagship, the commander raised his hand. Enough waiting, prepare to fire. Show them what it means to defy the council. As cannons across the alien fleet lit up like suns, Captain Elias closed his eyes for just a moment, hearing the hum of power around him. Humanity's darkest history was not shame. It was the foundation of their strength. And now, that strength was about to be tested. He opened his eyes, sharp as blades. They think fear will break us, but fear is what made us human. And with that, the stage was set. The trap was ready. The next move belonged to the aliens. The trap is set. The alien armada moved like a storm across the black sea of space. Their ships tightened formation, shields glowing, cannons heating until they burned white-hot. The planet below was still, unaware of the fire about to fall. To the aliens, this was already victory. Humanity had refused to kneel, and now they would be erased. On the flagship, the alien commander raised his clawed hand. Prepare the strike. Their ship will fall first, then their world. Yes, Commander, his officers answered in unison. Thousands of warships aligned, their weapons aiming at the lone human vessel that stood between them and Earth. Inside that old, scarred ship, Captain Elias stood calm. His crew's hands trembled over controls, but his voice cut through their fear like steel. They think this ship is alone, he said, low and steady. They see one blade against an army, but they do not see the shadows behind us. At the tactical station, an officer gasped. Captain, the dormant satellites, they're online. The whole network is awake. Elias nodded once. Good. Hold the signal until my command. For decades, those satellites had drifted silent above Earth, forgotten relics of old wars. They had been dismissed as junk, harmless debris circling a fragile planet. But they were not forgotten by those who prepared in secret. Each one carried hidden teeth, rail cannons, kinetic rods, EMP arrays, sleeping weapons buried in silence, waiting for the day humanity would need them. The aliens didn't know. The trap was set. The alien commander gave the order. Fire. 1,000 beams of light burst toward the human ship. The void burned with energy brighter than stars. "Brace!" Elias shouted. The ship shook violently as blasts hammered its shields. Sparks flew, metal groaned, alarms screamed. The crew gritted their teeth, but the ship held. Barely. "They think they're winning," Elias muttered. His eyes burned with a quiet fire. Let them believe it. The enemy fleet pressed forward, their weapons raining destruction. The human ship twisted, dodging what it could, its shields cracking, armor tearing apart. To the alien commander, it looked like the end. He leaned back in his throne, satisfied. See how easily they break. One ship against the Council? Madness. But in that very moment, the trap snapped shut. "Now," Elias ordered. At once, the stars above Earth lit up with fire. The dormant satellites roared to life, thousands of hidden weapons awakening from their long slumber. Invisible for decades, they suddenly revealed their true nature. Rails launched tungsten rods at impossible speeds. EMP bursts exploded across the void, frying alien systems. Beams of energy pierced shields the aliens believed impenetrable. The first wave of alien ships shattered before they could react. On the flagship, officers cried out, "Commander, their planet is armed. The orbit is alive with weapons." The commander's eyes widened. Impossible! But it was too late. All around them, space turned into a killing field. Human ingenuity, born of centuries of fear, war, and survival, was unleashed. The aliens thought Earth was weak. They never imagined the whole planet had been turned into a fortress. On the bridge of the human ship, the crew watched in awe as the hidden network unleashed fury. Alien cruisers broke apart under kinetic strikes. Massive carriers went dark as EMPs consumed their systems. Fire bloomed across the void. The young officer whispered, voice trembling, "Captain, it's working. They're falling apart." Elias's face remained hard. "Do not cheer yet. This is only the beginning. The Council is vast. They will not break so easily." But inside, he allowed himself the smallest spark of pride. Humanity had been underestimated again, and that mistake was costing the enemy dearly. The alien commander slammed his claws against his throne. "Regroup, regain formation, crush those satellites." Ships scrambled, trying to target the hidden defenses, but every shot they fired exposed them to another satellite's strike. The sky became a maze of death, every path forward filled with traps. Still, the aliens pressed on, their numbers overwhelming. For every cruiser destroyed, 2 more surged forward. For every carrier disabled, another unleashed waves of drones. "Captain, they're adapting," an officer warned. "Our defenses won't hold forever." "I know," Elias said. His eyes flickered with something dangerous. "That is why we don't stop here." He tapped a command on the console. Deep beneath Earth's crust, more systems stirred. Old silos opened, buried warheads hidden in mountains and oceans primed for launch. Humanity had hidden its claws everywhere, because it had always expected Annihilation might one day return. The crew stared at their captain, realizing the full scope of the plan. Earth had been preparing not for decades, but for centuries. "Captain," the youngest officer said softly, awe in his voice. "It's not just a defense, it's a trap for their entire fleet." Elias gave the faintest smile. "Exactly. They expected surrender. Instead, they stepped into our jaws." On the flagship, the alien commander finally understood. His face twisted with rage, his voice a roar that shook his officers. "Destroy them. Destroy the planet if you must." The order echoed across the fleet. The aliens prepared their deadliest strike yet, but Captain Elias stood unmoved, his voice, though calm, filled with iron. "Let them come. We have lived through fire before, and this time we will be the fire." The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the battle entered its deadliest stage, and so the trap was sprung. Fire and fury, the void above Earth was no longer silent. It burned. Explosions rippled like new stars being born, tearing holes in the blackness. The alien armada, once a wall of unstoppable power, was now a battlefield of chaos. Ships collided, shields failed, and fire spread across the fleet. Yet the storm had only begun. The alien commander's voice thundered across his flagship. "Regroup, push through, burn their world to ash." His officers obeyed, but panic had begun to slip into their eyes. The trap had shocked them, but their numbers were still overwhelming. Even as their cruisers fell in flames, more poured forward, their cannons locking onto Earth's hidden defenses. One by one, the satellites that had guarded Earth for decades were shattered. Blazing beams cut them apart. EMP nodes went dark. Kinetic launchers broke under fire. The alien fleet pressed through the storm, leaving a trail of broken metal behind. On the human warship, alarms screamed. The hull groaned. Sparks rained from torn panels. "Shields are failing," shouted the tactical officer. "Multiple hits on the stern," another cried. "We can't hold this forever." Captain Elias stood like stone at the center of it all. His eyes burned, but his voice was calm. "We were never meant to hold forever," he said. "We were meant to bleed them dry." The young officer at communications glanced at him, fear in his voice. "Captain, how much more can we lose before it's over?" Elias's reply was steady, fierce. "As much as it takes." Outside, humanity's secret weapons unleashed. Fury. Rail cannons hidden in mountains fired upward, spearing alien frigates. Nuclear warheads, old, blunt, and terrible, shot out of silos and detonated in the void, blinding the stars with white fire. Asteroids pushed into motion years ago by hidden engines crashed through enemy formations like ancient gods hurling stones. Alien ships burst apart. Drones scattered in flame. The fleet that had come to conquer began to fracture under the relentless storm. On the flagship, the commander's rage turned to disbelief. How can they fight like this? This world was supposed to fall in hours. His advisor, voice trembling, answered, "Commander, this is not a world that fears death. This is a world that has lived with it." The commander struck him, down with a blow, but the words echoed in his mind all the same. Back on the human ship, the crew pushed forward despite the chaos. Their consoles shook, their bodies bruised, but their eyes carried fire. They were fighting not for survival alone, but for vengeance, for every insult, for every life that would have been enslaved had they surrendered. Elias pointed at the screen, where the alien flagship loomed like a mountain of steel. "There," he said, "that beast commands them all. Cut off the head, and the body will falter." The helmsman swallowed hard. "Sir, that's suicide." The captain's lips curved into a grim smile. "Only if we fail." The warship lurched forward, engines screaming as it charged straight into the heart of the alien formation. Enemy fire rained down like a storm, battering the hull, tearing plates apart. But still the human ship pressed on. Alien officers shouted in alarm as the lone vessel pierced through their lines like a blade of fire. Smaller ships tried to intercept, but Earth's hidden defenses struck them down. The human warship carved a path of destruction, refusing to break. On the flagship, the commander roared, "Focus all fire on that ship, destroy it now." Dozens of alien cruisers turned their weapons on Elias's vessel. Beams and plasma tore across the void. The ship shook, metal screaming, sections burning, but it did not fall. Inside, the crew gritted their teeth, holding to their stations as if their own bodies were part of the ship. "We're still here," shouted one officer through the smoke. Elias's eyes never left the target. "Closer," he ordered. The alien flagship loomed larger and larger, its black hull reflecting the light of fire and destruction around it. Its weapons glowed, preparing to release a killing strike. The crew held their breath. Every heartbeat felt like thunder. "Captain," whispered the young officer, fear and awe in his voice, "we can't survive this." Elias's gaze hardened. His voice was a blade of iron. "We don't need to survive. We only need to win." The warship charged, fire trailing in its wake. Behind it, Earth's defenses flared with one final burst. Dozens of warheads detonated, tearing apart the ships chasing them. The sky was filled with fire and wreckage, and still the human vessel flew on, scarred, burning, but unbroken. The alien commander leaned forward in his throne, his face a mask, of fury. What are they doing? They cannot. But then he saw it. The human ship was not retreating. It was aiming directly for him. Impossible, the commander whispered. For the first time, there was doubt in his voice. On the bridge of the HFY human warship, the crew braced for the final charge. Systems failed one by one. The hull split, fire spread, and yet they kept going. Captain Elias gripped the command table, his voice calm, steady, filled with the weight of humanity's unbroken will. This ends with us, he said. Not them. And with that, the human ship roared toward the alien flagship, a burning spear of defiance cutting through the darkness. The final blow, the alien flagship filled the screen, a colossal shadow stretching across the void. Its hull glowed with energy, cannons charging to erase the lone human vessel daring to approach. Around it, alien cruisers swarmed like wolves circling a wounded prey. The human warship was burning. Plates of armor drifted away into space. Fires raged through corridors. Systems failed one after another. Yet still the engines roared, pushing the battered ship closer to the heart of the enemy. On the bridge, smoke stung the crew's eyes. Sparks rained from overhead wires, and the air was heavy with heat. But no one abandoned their post. "Captain, shields are gone," the tactical officer shouted. "Engines at 40%, another cried. "We won't make it." Captain Elias stood tall amid the chaos, his face streaked with sweat and ash, but his voice was calm, iron steady. "We will make it. Hold the line." The young officer at communications trembled, gripping his console. His voice cracked. "Sir, even if we reach the flagship, what can one ship do against that monster?" Elias turned to him, his gaze sharp as fire. "Do you know why we endure, Lieutenant?" he asked. "Because when the world ends, when the sky burns, when hope itself dies, humanity refuses to let go. We find a way. Always." The officer swallowed hard. The words lit something inside him. Not hope exactly, but resolve. Outside, the alien commander sneered as he watched the tiny human ship tear through the wreckage toward him. "Fools," he muttered. "Do they think bravery will save them? Crush them now." The fleet obeyed. Beams of plasma and rail fire poured down on the human vessel. The void burned white. The ship shuddered under the assault, hull tearing further, flames consuming its body. But when the fire cleared, the ship was still there, scarred, broken, yet still moving forward. On the bridge of the flagship, the alien commander's eyes widened. For the first time in centuries, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. Why won't they fall?" he whispered. Inside the human vessel, Elias knew the time had come. He pressed a sequence into the console, unlocking a hidden chamber deep within the ship. The lights flickered and a low hum spread through the vessel, an energy unlike anything the crew had ever felt. The youngest officer's eyes widened as readings spiked. "Captain, what is that? I've never seen energy levels like this." Elias's face was grim. "An experimental weapon, a last resort, the plasma core. It was never meant to be used, too unstable, too destructive. But today," he paused, his voice dropping to a whisper, "today it will save us." The crew exchanged terrified glances. They all knew what it meant. A weapon so powerful it could destroy not just the flagship but everything around it, including them. "Sir," the helmsman said quietly, "if we fire this, we don't survive." Elias looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of every crew member. His voice softened, but it carried the weight of 1,000 generations. "Listen to me. Survival was never the goal. Victory was. If we fall but humanity stands free, then we have won." For a moment, silence filled the bridge. Then, one by one, the officers nodded. Fear remained, but so did pride. The alien commander's voice thundered across the comms. "Human captain, you cannot win. You are one ship against an empire. Your resistance is meaningless." Elias stared into the alien's burning yellow eyes. His own voice was calm, sharp as a blade. Empires fall, humanity endures, and with that, he gave the order. Activate the core. The ship's engines roared louder, the hull glowing with unbearable light. The plasma core awakened, its power flooding the vessel until the entire ship blazed like a newborn sun. From the alien flagship, officers screamed as sensors went wild. "Commander, it's going critical. If it detonates, destroy them," the commander roared, panic breaking his voice. "Now!" But it was too late. The human ship struck like a burning spear, slamming into the alien flagship. And in that instant, Elias's final words echoed through the comms, clear, steady, unbroken. "Humanity does not surrender. Ever." The plasma core detonated. The void became pure fire. A blinding light consumed everything, tearing through the flagship, ripping the alien armada apart. The shockwave spread across the stars, chains of explosions blooming one after another. Warships shattered, cruisers broke in half, drones disintegrated. The alien fleet, once so mighty, burned in silence. On Earth below, people looked to the sky. For a moment, the heavens themselves glowed brighter than day. The fire of sacrifice lit the world, and when it faded, the alien armada was gone. Only wreckage drifted across the void. The Council's fleet, destroyed, and at the center of the wreckage, nothing remained of the lone human warship but memory and legend. On the ground, survivors wept and cheered. Families embraced. Children cried with relief. The planet had stood on the edge of annihilation, and yet, because of one ship and one crew, it had endured. For the first time in history, the galaxy would whisper the same words. The aliens expected surrender. Humanity gave them annihilation.